When it comes to Bring Her Back, it's one of those movies that try to make you question at what point is it no longer justifiable for someone to say, I'd do anything for my child. But to summarize the movie, unfortunately for Piper and also Andy, their dad died. Piper's mom is long past, and Andy's mom is pretty much not talked about, so we're assuming that she's dead or else wants nothing to do with him. So, being that Andy is 3 months from being 18 and Piper is a teenager, unfortunately for them, they end up in foster care, but thankfully are quickly placed with a woman named Laura. Now, Laura originally just wanted Piper. She didn't necessarily want Andy because she had an incident with a boy she fostered before, but being that Andy is Laura's brother, she tries her best. But as is made clear in time, what Laura wants deals with partly trying to replace her daughter Kathy, and between her desires for Piper, this odd kid that she's fostering named Oliver, and a lot of things that definitely worth raising an eyebrow over and make it seem that social services probably should have looked into Laura a bit more before she got assigned kids. Things go from awkward, needing some adjustment period to, Andy need to get him and his sister the hell out of there. So, getting to the review section, admittedly, one of the highlights that was kind of a iffy, depending on how you look at it, is that one of the things that make Bring Her Back so shocking is that it is really dedicated to having traumatic things happen to kids, and it doesn't pull away from it. Like you're going to see, especially with Oliver, terrible things that cause blood, violence happen. Same goes for Piper, in some ways Andy, and granted, is it a long-term shock? Absolutely not. But considering how most shows or movies usually pull away after a certain point, they don't really go deep into it, it makes seeing Piper get socked in the face. It makes some of the things that Oliver does, especially regarding his mouth, the gore and some of the body horror, it creeps you out in ways that if that's not something you're used to, even if you're used to watching Saw, if you're used to watching things like The Ugly Stepsister, this might be a new thing to build a tolerance to. Which leads to the next highlight, and that's Laura. And I would say, even though Laura is definitely twisted, this is sort of gray area like we hinted to in the overview, in terms of she is a mother who lost her daughter to something tragic, and with that, there's a willingness you could have for the gray. If you knew there was a way to possibly bring your child back, would you be willing to do things that are unethical, possibly illegal, to get them back? I feel like for some parents, I'm not a parent so I can't speak on it, but I feel like for some, they would be willing to do that. And I feel like Laura kind of shows that parent who has a bit lost their mind because of what happened, because they saw or were involved in it, and with that, they're willing to make that sacrifice, even if it's possibly their ethics or their soul, in order to get their child back into this world and not part of the next. Which leads to the on the fence topic, and that's just, when it comes to Bring Her Back, you're gonna have potential questions, especially if you're able to build up enough of a tolerance to not be kind of in a state of shock or surprise or disgust when it comes to the violence in this film. Like, for example, before Andy and Piper become orphans, there's a funeral for their father, and you see all these people around, and you're kind of questioning yourself. Not one of them could have took Andy and Piper in. Andy only needs 3 months before he's 18 and then can have custody of Piper. Never mind this question regarding what happened with Piper's mom and all those family members, and why didn't they try to get her. Then, of course, Andy's mom, where is her people at, and how come they didn't try to get him? And even in terms of other things regarding some of the stuff that Laura gets into, it feels like there's a need to ask, how did she learn about this stuff? Was she part of this organization that is teased in terms of the trailer? But you don't get that. She just has tapes, and you don't really figure out how she got them, and it's just a lot of questions that for me, more so came after the film was over, and then I'm kind of recollecting about things more than when you're sitting in the theater watching this. So, again, if you're able to just keep stuck with what's happening, you may not think about any of this until the film's over. But if you're able to build a tolerance to the violence, you're going to start questioning some things that I wouldn't say are plot holes, but definitely you may wish were explored even just to answer simple questions. But overall, similar to Talk to Me, this is a film that is definitely going to either push your boundaries or kind of remind you where your boundaries are. And because of that, it keeps you engaged mainly through violence. To a point, the story, you're definitely going to feel something for the characters, especially Laura, but at times they're going to be complicated feelings. But as we've been saying increasingly when it comes to horror movies that want to be more than just something that presents violence, because they make the would-be villain a bit more complicated, not black and white, because there's a sense of drama that actually calls upon the actors to do more than scream, run, and stuff like that, it elevates Bring Her Back in ways that I don't know if it's going to become something that's a classic, but it's definitely going to be one of the better horror films that are going to come out this year.